I'm Borly Borelstein, and we're talking about Lake Mungo. So, Lake Mungo is a 2008 mockumentary style movie regarding the death of Alice Palmer. And as the movie progresses, we uncover more interesting facts about Alice's life and the circumstances surrounding her death that border on both dramatic, kind of ironic, and suspenseful and supernatural, culminating in a send off that is totally unearned and kind of dog shit. So the film starts off, and we're given about 18 minutes of exposition, and the only breaks that you get as the audience is that sometimes you see shots of the Australian outback for about 5 seconds, and then it goes back to more nonstop exposition. You hear about Alice, you hear about the family, you hear about what happened, but like you also just don't know what happened. So, what we're told is that Alice and her family were on a lake or on a river, and then Alice the brother saw Alice, and then the next thing you know, the brother didn't see Alice, and then she was gone, and they couldn't find her. And search and rescue was looking for her, and they found her body a couple days later. Dad identified the body. Yup, there she is. She's dead. That was my daughter. The funniest part about the movie, and I see this talked about online, is that people say that the acting is phenomenal and realistic, and I don't know how to tell you you have autism. At no point in this movie do either the mom or dad cry over their dead daughter. I mean, I think the mom gets a little teary eyed related to like something else, but the dad genuinely could not seem like he gave less of a fuck about his daughter being dead. And he actively talks about like, oh, like I guess, it helped me seeing my dead daughter's corpse. That helped me get over things. But my wife didn't look at her corpse, and maybe that's why she's still hanging on. Like, excuse me, you walked over and looked at your dead daughter's corpse and identified it, and you're talking about it with the casualness as if you just like determined what loaf of bread to buy. Like, what the fuck am I watching? This is not a serious movie. Like, it is genuinely appalling how detached the dad is to such a degree that I was expecting the suspicion of foul play on behalf of one of the family members, or maybe the entire family, implicating them in Alice's death. Unfortunately, the movie never goes there. We never even actually find out the cause of death from the coroner. They make a big deal at one point in the movie where they re-exhume Alice's body to identify the DNA to make sure that it's actually Alice, but we never find out how she actually died. How is that not important when you're dealing with the mysterious circumstances surrounding her death, whether it be supernatural, self inflicted, suicide, or whatever? Because if you read reviews of this movie online, 90% of this movie is people's headcanon, that they just invent theories and their ideas about the film. And that's kind of interesting that I'm going to criticize this movie for being so much in viewers' heads, because my favorite movie is like one of my favorite movies is Ghost Story. And that's a movie that solely lives in the viewer's head because there's so little going on that it's not trying to be more than what it's making the viewer kind of wrestle with internally. And that's very personal. But this movie has a story. The problem is that it spends so much fucking time giving you exposition about shit that doesn't matter and red herrings that go nowhere. At the end of the movie, I don't give a fuck about Alex. I don't care about her. There's like so little character that Alice has. Did I just call her Alex? Whatever. Who fucking cares? This character sucks. You're dead at the beginning of the movie, and we see all these like, oh, there's Alice in this one video, and there's Alice doing a silly dance, and then there's Alice talking to the neighbor dad. Like, the only interesting part of this story, I'm going to go through the three interesting parts of the story right now. So the first part is after Alice dies, she starts showing up in pictures and videos that the brother is recording. And then later on, it turns out that the brother was editing Alice into these images as like some five-dimensional chess game to get his mom to want to exhume the corpse to then DNA test it so that mom could finally accept that her daughter is dead. That is the given reason in the film why the brother is engaging in five-dimensional chess by putting his dead sister in these images. And it's never a question how fucking insane and like mentally unwell that behavior is on behalf of the brother. It's just treated as like that's okay and normal to do that kind of thing. So, yeah, wonderful. Good job, brother. And then but guess what? There's another twist. It turns out that Alice is actually in all of these images. She's just like over there on the other side of the image. Oops, I bet you didn't see that unless you're like watching the movie and then you have eyes and it's like, oh, okay, so like there's an Alice over there and then there's another Alice over on the other side of the screen because there's nothing else to fucking look at. So like if you have eyeballs, you can see clearly something's going on. So that's fucking stupid. The only other interesting thing in the movie is that at one point later on in the film, we see Alice on the left, but that was a fake Alice, and then we see another person on the right, and somehow they're able to zoom in and they see it's the neighbor dad, and it's like, huh, that's weird. And then the mom is like, oh yeah, I went through her things behind the secret fireplace, and she had a VHS, and that must have been why he was here. And then on the VHS is multiple recordings of Alice getting fucked by not only the neighbor dad but the neighbor wife. I'm not joking. This is real in the movie, and Alice seems to be a willing participant. And the dad talks about this and saying how like, oh well, I would wring his neck, but it they said that we would not win in court because it seemed like she was having a good time. And like, dog, you are talking about your daughter being groomed and probably maybe even coerced into having sex with two adults at the age of, I don't know what the age of consent is in Australia, but if my 16-year-old daughter is getting fucked by the neighbor dad and then the wife of that guy is holding her hand and like engaging in whatever the fuck else is going on, that is genuinely insane to me. And also the pretext is that she's supposed to be going over there babysitting these other little boys. So like, what the fuck is going on in the house, right? Like that is the only character really we get for Alice. Otherwise, she is like a nothing burger character. Um, and the film really just like meanders all these red herrings of like, oh, this thing, that thing. There's this like, it's like not a psychologist, one of those the people that do like the fake tarot reading and that kind of bullshit. This guy like shows up, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna have you tell me about going into your house. There's never any rhyme or reason of why this guy has the mom talk about going in the house. And then earlier he had Alice talk about going in the house, but he kept that a secret from the family. And then the family finds out and he's like, well, I just didn't think it was, I wanted to protect the confidentiality of Alice, you know? And it's like, dude, Alice is dead and this family is seeking closure on her death. And you had an interaction with her before her death and you provided no information. You are a fucking pile of walking garbage dog shit. That part of the movie was fucking insane. Yeah. So then at the end of the movie, she's like at Lake Mungo, so you get the title drop. Oh no, Lake Mungo. And she's like walking around and she like buries her cell phone in some shit. And then she's like walking, and then there's like a person that looks like a bloated corpse that's supposed to be her, like walking up to her, and then the camera like freezes or whatever. So she recorded spiritual future her walking up to her as like a corpse, and that's the scary scene from the movie. Aren't you scared now? Oh my god, it's a bloated corpse her, and it like so distorted and shitty. It's like, who fucking cares? Who's Alice? I don't care. Alice is nobody. The only time Alice has any character is when she was getting fucked by the neighbor dad, which is awesome, by the way. That was the coolest part of the movie. And then at the end of the movie, they try to do this cute little send off where Alice is talking about how, oh, my mom is there, but she can't see me, and they're leaving. And then the mom is like, oh, I look in Alice's room and I can't see her, and then I'm leaving, goodbye. And then the family moves out, and little do they know that Alice was there the whole time. So at the end of the movie, if you've seen the YouTube video, Ryan turns into a dog, where it's a 2-minute video where these guys are talking about saving their friend from turning into a dog. And then at the end of the movie, at the end of that 2-minute video, you find out that there was this horse mask man in the background in all the scenes. This Lake Mungo is the same movie where you find that Alice was actually in the background in a lot of the scenes, even the ones where her brother was already editing her into. So like, don't you think he would have like noticed that she was in the scenes in one of the shots? And so then he wouldn't have had to edit her in. Like, why, like you're looking at the film and you're editing Alice in. How did you not notice that she was already in some of these shots? It's clear as day if you have eyeballs, like, because you're going to be looking for a place where you can edit her in, right? Like, I don't know, that part of the movie was so fucking dumb and corny. And people online will masturbate over this movie about, oh, it's so tragic that Alice was there as a ghost, but the family didn't know that, and that's the saddest part. And I think she had depression, and then the story maybe it's about suicide. And oh, I bet the family was secretly really abusive. And the problem is that there's no evidence of any of that in the fucking movie at all. They talk as if Alice has this seedy backstory and it uncovers and like, oh, I think the mom and what the one there's some evidence of some of it in the movie. The mom is like, oh, I think Alice wanted us to find these things. Fucking how? At what point did she ever communicate that she buried a bag of shit like miles and miles and miles away at Lake Mungo on her fucking camp retreat for school? How do you think that she wanted you to find that? If anything, it seemed like she was just trying to bury shit that caused her a lot of stress because she just recorded a video of herself as a fucking bloated corpse walking up to her. Like, huh, mom, are you high? Oh, also, there's a plot point in the movie where the mom starts walking into people's homes at night and just like watching them sleep, and it's never addressed how insane that is. That's just like a thing that is said and moved past. Like, what the literal fuck? That is genuinely crazy. Uh yeah, so my biggest problem with the film is that so much of what people like about it is like they just invent in their head. Because one, Alice is not a fucking interesting character. She's not even a character. Two, if you've seen Twin Peaks, this movie is just shittier Twin Peaks. Sure, it's in the mockumentary style instead of like, Twin Peaks is like a procedural show, you know, style, but that doesn't mean that they're not just stealing wholesale the plot of Twin Peaks. You have a girl who dies, town darling, whose last name is Palmer. Who dies in Twin Peaks? Laura Palmer, right? And then you find out that she was actually involved in some shady stuff. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Laura Palmer was doing something with drugs and gangbangs or something, and Alice Palmer was getting fucked by the neighbor dad and the wife. You know? And then there's like some whole supernatural element about Alice seeing her bloated corpse walking at her, and that's supposed to be really scary. But like by the time it happens, it's almost like an hour and 30 minutes into the movie, and I still do not care about Alice as a character. You still have not endeared me to Alice to care about her dying. Like, we listen to so much exposition about Alice, and it just all falls flat because everyone in the movie has like it's like they're on Xanax or something. Like, how does nobody can emote? They call this realistic acting. It's like, hey, in real life, people have passion, people have feelings, and people have things to say. The dad in the movie could not give less of a fuck that his daughter is dead, and it's never addressed why that is. Like, how is there never the question of follow play? The movie spends so much time on so many worthless red herrings, and it doesn't even follow up on the obvious ones that the movie sets up itself ignorantly. Like, I don't think that it was the intention of anyone in this movie for the family to ever be suspicious, but people online will come up with theories about how the family is really suspicious, and I bet they were secretly abusing Alice and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, sure, if there's evidence of that in the movie, point to it. But like, you can't just invent a whole different movie and then say that the movie that you watched is good because you invented a different movie in your head. That's not how media literacy works. You're just creating things in your brain that are not there. Where is the evidence? Point to it in the movie, please, for me. Because otherwise, this movie is a huge fucking letdown. This movie is like a zero point 0.5 out of 10. It is the pacing is insane. The first 18 minutes feel like 45. Like, truly dreadful. I don't know. I think it was probably very novel at the time because the use of technology to edit in Alice is kind of interesting in 2008. But in modern times, it just feels like so much of this has already been done to such a better level that it's just kind of, even that, the movie itself was already ripping off Twin Peaks, which was like 20 years predates itself or whatever, right? So, like, fuck this movie. This movie fucking sucks. This movie is not original. Somebody actually had the audacity to say that this was a wholly original movie, which is laughable to me. Yeah, so fuck this movie. If you like this movie, I'm sorry, you have shit taste. This movie is my new horror movie litmus test. If you like this movie, you are just dumb and stupid and have no critical thinking skills. And yeah, I don't know. I guess if you like this movie, tell me what you like. Because I struggle to find it. I thought the performances were bad. The camera work is so obvious and ass. Every time there's a scene where where they're recording something on the camera and you're supposed to see like Alice in a corner somewhere or Alice like somewhere in the camera, it's always like, oh, here's the family over here to the side over there, and then here's the scary hallway right down here. That's where Alice is down the hallway. Oh my god, whoa! Like it's so obvious. Like this movie feels like a film for babies. Like if you are a baby movie watcher, this movie is great for you because you are gonna just like, oh, right there, there's the house. Oh my god, wow! Like fuck you, fuck this movie. Anyway, blow me.